Alright.
Everybody wave to the camera.
Hi.
Alright. Artificial color dyes in our food should be outlawed by the FDA. In addition to considerations of organ damage, cancer, birth defects, and allergic reactions, mixtures of dyes and yellow 5 tested alone cause hyperactivity and other behavioral problems in children. Because of that concern, the British government advised companies to stop using most food dyes by 2009, and the European Union is requiring warning labels on most of their products containing food dyes after July 20th, 2010, which they have done by now. In the United States, however, these petroleum-based dyes are still considered safe by the FDA, even though food dye consumption per person has increased 5-fold in the United States since 1955. That's a 500% increase. So the FDA's dye tolerance policy is based on consumption way back in the 1990s. It's not even up to date. This research is obviously dangerously outdated. These facts and quotes are according to Sarah Pawlowski. She is a PhD candidate for molecular toxicology program at the University of California. And Michael Jacobson, he is a PhD. He's the executive director for the Center for Science in the Public Interest. So among the many other sources I consulted for facts about the risks of artificial food dyes, this report done by these two people here and by the CSPI is where my quotes came from and a lot of my facts. And just so you understand their accomplishments, so you can understand their credibility on this topic, the CSPI started in the mid-1970s. They are responsible for nutrition labels on our food, for defining the term organic, because that term was really abused when they first started using it. They also put warning labels on alcohol. They conducted a lot of research and studies into the effects of, or into the health of restaurant food and movie theater popcorn. You don't even want to know. And then they are also responsible, if you've been to restaurants lately or to fast food places, you've seen the calorie counts on the menu. So they are responsible for getting that going. So the FDA basically sets the standard for food and health safety, and CSPI raises that standard for us. So, how dangerous are artificial food dyes? What can be done about them, and what can we do to help? So let's start with how dangerous can food dyes be? The FDA monitors all that stuff, right? I mean, they're a government agency. We can trust them. I'm sure they have no issues, and they operate very smoothly and above board and everything. But the FDA research, as I stated before, is very much outdated. And the toxicological studies that were done by the chemical industry and the academic consultants. They were not done by independent researchers. Also, individual dyes were tested, not combination of dyes. And they tested lab rats, and a lab rat lifespan is 3 years compared to a human lifespan. They only did 2-year tests, which is equal to 65 years of age for an adult human, and they did not do very many tests in utero. So they don't know the full effects of dyes. So we're going to take a quick run through each color and how they are impacting not only children, but us adults who have been eating them and being fed a steady diet of them our whole lives. So we're going to look at blue 1 and 2 first. They are banned in Norway, Finland, and France. They were known to cause tumors in the brain and kidneys of rats. This was one of the dyes that was tested in utero, and it did cause nerve damage. And we have green 3. It caused an increase in tumors in the bladder and testes of male rats. And citrus red 2 is what they dip your oranges in to make them more orange and brightly colored. They also showed tumors in the urinary bladder. Okay, so we have our 2 red dyes here, additional red dyes. Red 40 is the one most people avoid, but red 3 is nasty. Like, red 3 was found in the 1990s. It was recognized by the FDA to cause thyroid carcinogen in animals. It causes thyroid cancer. It is banned in cosmetics and externally applied drugs, and all red 3 lakes are banned. However, the FDA still permits 200,000 gallons a year to be put into food and drugs. Red 40 causes hypersensitivity. This is an allergic-like reaction. It also triggers hyperactivity in children, especially children with ADHD. It will exacerbate their symptoms, but it will also mimic ADHD symptoms in children who don't actually have ADHD. You cut this out of their diet, their symptoms will go away. Yellow 5 and 6, these are really bad too. These are banned in Norway and Austria. Studies actually showed genotoxicology. This is a deterioration of the cell's genetic material, and it has the potential to mutate healthy DNA. They're also cross-contaminated with cancer-causing chemicals. These are, like red 40, will cause hypersensitivity and hyperactivity and mimic those ADHD symptoms again. If you cut out yellow dyes and red 40, it's one of the 2 things you can do for children with ADHD that is not putting them on drugs. The other is to cut back their sugar, and we did that with our own children. They also cause adrenal tumors in animals. So, where are these dyes? They are in candy and chips, cereal and soda and fruit juice. They're in salad dressings. They're in vitamins, medicine, salmon, yogurt, oatmeal. You would be amazed at how many places you can find artificial color dyes. Is this a problem everywhere in the world? Yes, it is. Most developed countries are dealing with artificial food dyes and how to handle them. So what can be done about it? Well, in the European Union, here's a label on, they required a warning label on any food containing artificial dyes. So the warning label says, may have adverse effects on activity and attention in children. That warning label alone was enough to get most companies to change their ingredients in Europe. Some countries also ban specific dyes, as we saw in the previous slides. Australian officials are looking at banning harmful food dyes. And when the British researchers tested food dyes and preservatives, 79% of children had a reaction to it. So they banned it. They did their tests and they got rid of it. Some countries in America are making the switch to no artificial dyes because of consumer pushback. Walmart is phasing them out of their products. Aldi, General Mills, Kraft, it's October in time for Halloween. Nestle Candy is phasing them out. And you can see here, U.S. still has the dyed M&Ms, and we get both of the reds, both of the yellows, and both of the blues. Oh, I'm sorry, we get red 40, both of the blues and both of the yellows. Red 3 is not in there. So other companies aren't just phasing them out, they just give us different ingredients in America because they're considered safe in America, but not in Europe. So, Orange Fanta in Europe, they get carrot juice and pumpkin juice. We get red 40 and yellow 6. We have Nutri-Grain bars in America, we get red 40, yellow 6, and blue 1. But over in Europe, they have beetroot, annatto, and paprika extract. And then we have a restaurant chain here, McDonald's, they have their strawberry sundae. In America, we have this laundry list of ingredients, including red 40. And in Britain, where you can't have those dyes, they have a much shorter list and no artificial dyes. So these are what other countries and some companies are doing, but what can you do? You need to stop buying food with dyes in them. Imagine a grocery shopping trip where the food and medicine you bought for your family was actually good for them. Imagine not having to check every label or feel guilty whenever you bought Pop-Tarts or M&Ms as a special treat. Imagine your children not having to struggle to focus in school. And if you could reduce your risk of cancer by not buying and consuming food with food dyes in it, wouldn't you? Take responsibility for your own health. Remember, at one point it was considered healthy to smoke cigarettes in America. We need to protect ourselves and future generations. The FDA should outlaw artificial food dyes in our food. We could have warning labels or rely on our own vigilance, but without laws in place banning food dyes, you would always, always, always have to check what you're consuming. And not every time you eat something do you have a label right there in front of you. Without solid laws in place, people could become complacent and we could watch as a backslide occurs and companies start putting more food dyes back into food because they think we don't care anymore. Act now, not 20, 30, 40 years from now. We cannot let food dyes be the cigarettes of our generation. And we should not be the FDA's lab rats. Stop purchasing food with artificial colors and dyes in them. Educate your children so they can make good decisions too. Good health and good sense are two of life's greatest blessings. So let's not waste the blessings we have. And I'm going to open up my talk now to anybody who has any questions about color dyes in your food. If you can't think of anything off the top of your head, these are some questions that I thought might be interesting to you or you might have. What is a lake? Okay, so sometimes when you see dyes, they're just dyes or they're lakes. So lakes are the dyes, or lakes are combined with the dyes because dyes are soluble and they will bleed. And the lakes are combined with metallic salt and they will hold their structure. Lakes will also bind with sugars, fats, and oils. So if you think of a candy cane, if they just use a dye, it would be pink. But when they use the lake, it keeps those lines. And sometimes it can make them more dangerous, like in the case of Red Lake 3, which has an all-out ban on it. Yes.
Is it really hard to make the transition away from dyes? Isn't that in most of all of our favorite foods?
Yeah, it can be tricky. A lot of companies now are making it easy for us. They're becoming more aware of people's health concerns. We did make that transition with our own children, and they didn't fully understand at first, but now they get really excited, and they're kind of passionate about it too. They want to eat healthy. They will turn down cupcakes at school, and they will double-check cakes at birthday parties, and the food that comes into our house, they want it to be safe.
Have you really noticed that big of a difference?
Yes, our daughter with ADHD and our children without ADHD have seen a huge improvement in their behavior. We made the switch at the end of last year. We didn't tell our daughter's teacher, and she thought we had put her on medication because her improvement in her ability to focus was so great after only a month of being off of dyes.
So what are safe dyes?
So safe dyes are going to be most things that are food that you recognize. Beets, paprika, even charcoal can be a safe black alternative. Sweet potato, corn, blueberries. Beta carotene is safe, and so is turmeric and paprika. One thing that sounds safe but isn't is caramel coloring. Caramel coloring is very, very, very bad. Caramel coloring is not made out of caramel, so the name itself can fool you. But in government studies, the chemical compound that results from making caramel causes lung, liver, thyroid cancer, and leukemia. So this is, if you see caramel color, it is not a natural safe color.
Why use dyes at all?
I don't know if any of you were here for my color speech, but companies will use the colorful dyes to attract your attention and trick mostly your children into wanting to buy these products because they're exciting and bright and look fun.
names again? They're all still here, you heard them?